I wouldn't say not even survivors, they're actually champions.
Welcome to Doctor's Story. In this episode, we are going to be talking about the breast and about breast cancer. This is so relevant now because we are celebrating Breast Cancer Awareness Month through October. We're also going to be discussing a little bit about celebrities and what we can learn from them. To lead us in this discussion and to answer our questions, we have Dr. Veda. Dr. Veda is a breast oncologist and she's also the author of the book Life, Survival and Beyond, which is a collection of stories about women who have breast cancer. So before we jump into this discussion, Dr. Veda, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and also answer this question, which is what inspires you every day when you wake up to do the work that you do?
A very good evening to one and all, and thanks for having me in Doctor Story. It's a good platform to interact with people about breast cancer awareness. And yeah, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's the need of the hour because breast cancer is almost number one cancer amongst women in India and, of course, the world. So yeah, coming to the question. So one is about myself. So I'll make it simple. So I'm basically a cancer surgeon, and I do breast cancers only. So I've specialized in breast cancer surgery, and hopefully I continue doing the work till the Almighty permits. And for the second part of the question, yeah. So what inspires me every day? So yeah, so day in and day out, we get so enthralled with the day-to-day routines of life that we forget, and or rather forget to understand what drives us each day. Somehow, in over the years that I have worked with breast cancer or survivors, or I wouldn't say not even survivors, they're actually champions. So champions of cancer. So I've realized that they have a great fighting spirit, and the positivity inspires them to go on despite the odds of having cancer and braving the odds of treatment. So that's when you realize that you're really gifted, and each day in a life is valuable to you, and tomorrow maybe or may not be, but today is what you have, and today is what the best you can give.
Thank you, Dr. Veda. So this is
Thank you.
really interesting, and I would like to know more about your book. What is it that you've written about?
Yeah, in fact, this book was a venture from my one of my patients. So in fact, she was behind me telling me, "Ma'am," in fact, she was from Delhi, so she used to tell, "Ma'am, आपको तो एक book लिखना ही लिखना है." तो आपको तो नहीं लिखना है, आप सिर्फ ये हाँ बता दो, हम लिख देंगे. I was like, "What is this?" So, but yeah, it was. She kept pestering me so much. Then I said one day, "Okay, let me write or let me try." And I'm a kind of person who wouldn't let anyone else write for me. I would write to pen down my thoughts, and in fact it was just I was able to. In fact, she gave me a deadline. See, January was supposed to be the international book fair, and December she told me, "Ma'am, ye book to karna hai." So I said, I don't have time. It's 1 month is a short time even for the publication people, and that's how we started it. And over 2 weeks, I said, okay, every day we'll work out an hour and squeezed out the time to write down. And once you sit down and start penning your thoughts, and then the flow comes in. So that's how I managed to write down the book. And it came out in a very good shape, and it was published in the it was actually released in the International Book Fair the year before last.
So, if we want to get this book, where can we find it?
Yeah, so as of now, it is actually this is the cover of the book. So it's Life, Survival, and Beyond. So it was being published by Gully Baba. So Gully Baba, of course, it is available online. Initially, it was available online by Amazon also. And also, if you go through the Gully Baba website, it is available and you can order it. If there are any issues, anybody is free to contact me and get the book delivered by courier also.
Okay, wonderful. So, Dr. Veda, let's move into breast cancer
Yeah.
itself. This is definitely something that a lot of women are concerned about. And I was just thinking, even if we come across something simple and small, like for example, if there's a lump or if there's some inequality in the sizes of the breast, we're immediately alarmed. Can you tell us a little bit about the actual odds of us having breast cancer?
So yeah, so the first point that every woman needs to know is about what is normal for her breast. So each woman has a different kind of texture, contour, symmetry, and the feel of the breast is different for each person. It's unique for each person. So it is first pertinent that each woman is familiar with what is normal for her. And that is why we suggest that once around a woman reaches 21 years of age, so breast self examination is something, it's the first step. So they become aware of what is normal for them. And so breast self examination is recommended once a month. And for women who have their periods regularly, we say 1 week after periods. That's the ideal time because the breast tissue is very supple. And so after a bath or something, they can work out on the weekend. And it has to be done in two parts in front of the mirror. One is you look in for changes, abnormal changes in the skin or any area around the breast and nipple and armpits. And the second is you feel for any lumps. So one is you see or look in or examine. Second is you feel and touch for any abnormalities in the breast. And for women who've actually had menopause, you say any day in the month, they can just mark in their calendar and repeat it every month so that they can pick up anything abnormal. So for again looking in front of the mirror, we say the positions. There are at least three positions in which a woman needs to see. One is like the arms by the side, then arms raised above, and arms by the hips. The three different positions will actually bring out any hidden lumps or changes just beneath the breast, in the inframammary crease, or in the armpits. So the second part of breast self-examination is you have to touch and feel. So basically, again, that is again in three positions: by sitting in position, lying down position, and standing position. Can be done in front of the mirror or beside the mirror. And so the breast is actually divided into something like a clock. So you divide it into clock positions. So we see into the four quadrants from 12 to 3 o'clock position, 3 to 6 o'clock position, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12 o'clock position. So you just have to feel gently with the flat of the fingers. So, and if there's something that comes and hits the flat of the fingers, then we need to seek medical attention. And then to end the thing, it's not only the breast, we need to look in for the nipple and areola also and press and see if there are any abnormal discharges or lumps that is felt. So this is for breast self examination. So these are one. So most of women have breast lumps. So not all lumps are cancerous, but lump is the most common symptom in breast cancer. So any lump in the breast, it needs to be evaluated. It has to be shown to a doctor. So there is no excuse for that. So any lump in the breast, any swelling in the breast, any thickening in the breast, any change in the size, symmetry, or skin changes in the breast, in the texture of the breast, something called tethering or dimpling, like you have a dimple in the chin, you can have dimpling in the breast because the tumor underneath pulls in the skin. So that's called dimpling. And when it's over an area, it's called tethering. Sometimes the nipple is indrawn. So indrawn nipple, inverted nipple, which are recent changes. Any recent change in the nipple, areola, or skin, all these are important. Any discharge in the nipple, especially if it's blood tinged or something, and and especially lumps in the armpits, not only in the breast, in the armpits. And sometimes the entire skin over the breast, you don't have any lump, but the entire skin over the breast becomes hard and so red and swollen, like you have like the skin of the orange. That's called the podrange appearance. So all these are red flags or signs and symptoms in which we should look in, like we should be suspicious that it could be cancer, then we need to immediately show to the doctor.
So when we do this, if we pick up something, what would the next procedure be once we go to the hospital or visit a doctor?
Okay, so screening is something which normal women do, which women who don't have any. So breast self-examination is one thing which every woman should do, and it should start as early as 21 years of age, so that women are familiar with what is okay for them. And for women more than 40 years, we recommend yearly mammograms. So mammograms is basically X-ray of the breast, which is done in a hospital setting, and so they take two views of both the breast, and they rule out that nothing is abnormal in them. So again, mammogram is done for normal women and has been done on a regular basis, so that any lesion, if at all it is there, it is picked up very early. Because see, what happens is when you do breast self-examination, you pick up a lesion or lump when it is quite big, almost more than 2 centimeter. And if you do it regularly, you can pick it maybe around 1.75 centimeter or 1.5 centimeter. But a mammogram picks it even when it is not felt. So that is the advantage of a mammogram. It can pick up a lump much before that it can be felt. And if you do regular mammograms, it can pick it up as soon as it is formed, maybe around 3 millimeters. So this is for normal women. So suppose any of them have any of the symptoms, suppose lump or nipple discharge or anything, then of course they have to come and show to the doctor. Then we do what is called a triple assessment. Once a woman is symptomatic, has a lump or something, we do something called a triple assessment. So triple assessment means it has to be three ways of assessing things. So one is a physical examination. So the doctor sees, feels, and looks in for signs and symptoms. Second is imaging of the breast. So imaging of the breast could be mammograms in older women and ultrasound of the breast in younger women. So on imaging also they look in for features, whether the lump looks normal or whether there are any abnormal changes or not. Then finally, third part is needle testing. So that's called a biopsy, histopathological evaluation, and that can be done with ultrasound guidance. And they take a piece of tissue or fluid from the lump and they send it to the pathologist. And then the pathologist rules out that everything is fine and nothing is abnormal.
Dr. Veda, recently we've been reading quite a lot about these celebrities who do preventive mastectomies. That's when they remove the breast completely. What is the role for this?
Okay, yeah. So again, so people make headlines when they do something like that. So yeah, Angelina Jolie did the same. So again, what I need to tell is, yeah, these stories may not be applicable to every person. So again, breast cancer itself, you don't have a ready-made treatment. Each person is different, and it's a tailor-made approach to each person. So, in case of Angelina Jolie's story, what happened was she had a strong family history of breast cancer. Her mother died of breast cancer and ovarian cancer. She lost her maternal aunt also to ovary and breast cancer. And they found out that their family had a hereditary breast ovarian syndrome complex. Okay. And so they had a gene which was mutant. So the BRCA gene was positive in their family. And so when Angelina Jolie got tested, she was also found to be positive. Now, what happens is now this BRCA gene, so BRCA basically, so that's a breast cancer antigen. So when the BRCA gene is positive, it has a 50% chance that it is passed on to the next generation or offsprings. It can be son or daughter, but it is 50% likely that it is passed on to the next generation. And if it is passed on to the next generation, then it increases the risk for different cancers, not only breast but also ovary and others. So what happened in Angelina Jolie was when see they had two people already who had breast and ovarian cancer, and she was positive for BRCA1. So then what happens is, because her risk is much higher than that of a normal woman, she decided to be proactive. Of course, she had multiple options. So, and because she was less than 40 years, the maximum benefit of preventive surgeries is in women less than 40 years of age. So she decided to go ahead with risk reducing strategies. So these surgeries are called as risk reducing strategies. And so where she got her both her breasts removed and reconstructed with a plastic surgeon, so that the breast tissue is removed, and so the risk of breast cancer becomes almost negligible. It cannot be zero. Theoretically, it cannot be zero. So it has to be somewhere between 0 to 5%.
So, does this mean that people who have cancers within their families should be more careful of having cancer
Yeah.
themselves?
So what happens is, whenever there's a history of breast cancer or any cancer in the family, a single person in the family having breast cancer is not, or cancer is not so important. But when there is a pattern of cancers in the family, either from the father's side or from the mother's side, it implies that there is some genetic pattern that is being passed on to generations. Sometimes it skipped generations, sometimes it is just a matter of time that it takes to manifest. So for families like that, or for women like that, then they need to know that their risk is higher. In fact, nowadays a lot of options that they go in for testing, genetic testing, and if at all, even without any history in the family or something, and then if their risk is found high, then they take on preventive measures.
Are there other things that increase the risk of cancer as well?
Yeah. In the case of breast cancer, what happens is there is no single causative factor. Like for example, in lung cancer, smoking is a major culprit in lung cancer, or tobacco is a major culprit for all the mouth cancers. So in breast cancer, you don't have such a direct correlation or causative factor, but there are some factors which in fact increase the risk for breast cancer. So these are called as risk factors, and some of the factors are under our control, which we call it as modifiable risk factors. But some of them, yeah, they're not under our control, or they're called as unmodifiable risk factors. In fact, it's interesting to know that, anyone would be shocked to know that being a woman is the most important risk factor for breast cancer. So breast cancer is more of a lifestyle cancer. So for the lifestyle changes, that we call it a triad. So one is diet. So diet would be any junk diet, any fat-filled diet, any processed food. All these increases the risk of breast cancer. And diet is related to weight gain or obesity. And again, physical activity, less physical activity or exercise again is interrelated. So this forms a triad of lifestyle cancers. So most of the breast cancers are hormone dependent, so estrogen dependent, and some of them, like some of the women need to have estrogen on an external basis. Apart from the estrogen that is produced in the body, they take estrogen in the form of birth control pills or hormone replacement therapy. So it's okay in moderation or for some period of time, but it is not advisable for women to continue birth control pills or HRT over a long period of time, because then it increases their inherent risk to breast cancer. So that is one thing. Again, they need to consult with a gynecologist and see if it is safe to continue their medications. Nowadays, alcohol is again one of the culprits which we say is implicated as the risk factor for breast cancer. So yeah, in the Indian population, it is less definitely, but it is up. It is actually, it's a rising trend, especially in the younger generation. So in the West, it is a standard risk factor. Everyone are in the habit of having alcohol, at least in moderation. Nowadays, even one glass or one drink of alcohol a day is increases the risk for breast cancer. So see, having no children is a risk factor for breast cancer, but having the first child beyond 35 years has a worse risk than having no children at all. So this is something which is important, because nowadays we have the younger generation planning their family. Of course, they plan their careers, they plan their work, they plan their marriages and all that, but they plan for late pregnancies.
Doctor, you said that the most important risk factor is being a woman. Does this mean that if you're a man, then there's no risk of getting breast cancer at
Okay.
all?
So yeah, so I didn't say men don't get breast cancer. So yeah, being a woman is the most important risk factor for breast cancer. But 1% of breast cancers occur in men also. Okay, so out of 100 breast cancers, one breast cancer will occur in a man. And in fact, if it occurs in men, it means that it is hereditary. It has a tendency to pass on from one generation to another. Breast cancer is inclusive of both male and female breast cancers, and we need to take care of both their considerations.
Thank you so much for this. Finally, Dr. Veda, if a person wants to see you, where can they find you?
Okay. So as of now, I work in NGM Healthcare in Chennai. So that's in Nelson Manikam Road, and I'm there full time. So I'm available Mondays to Fridays and Mondays to Saturdays. And so anybody can just log into the website of MGM Healthcare and fix up an appointment.
Okay. Thank you so much for this, Dr. Veda. We really enjoyed this conversation with you, and we do hope that you come back and do another interview with us at
Yeah,
another point of time.
definitely,
Thank you
definitely.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.